lot of talk in the news about Facebook and how we're being tracked, and I've been thinking about this a lot because I've been to a bunch of these big data conferences and I've heard a lot of talk about the data that's being collected on us. So I just thought I'd share kind of a day in the life, maybe in the future, maybe it's right now, maybe it's kind of a combination of both. It's not going to be very reassuring because if you think you're safe not being tracked, you're really not. I mean, there's just so many different ways that companies are tracking us on a daily basis. Not just companies, governments, marketing people. I mean, there's just so many. So I just wrote out a little piece of paper here, front and back, of just a typical day in the life of someone. And I'm just going to tell you kind of the ideas I have for how you might be watched in a typical day. So let's begin. You wake up, maybe use one of those assistants, one of those smart home speakers. So you say, you know, wake me up every day at 4 a.m. 4 a.m. is a little early. That's probably what time I wake up. Maybe 6 a.m. So they log that. That's logged, aggregated, whatever. It's maybe anonymous, but there you go. They still know how many people wake up at 5 a.m., how many people set an alarm for 6 a.m., how many people set an alarm for 7 a.m. Then you watch a little TV in the morning. Well, your service provider, whoever that may be, whether you're streaming or whether it's a cable company, well, they're logging everything that you're doing. They're seeing how long you've watched the channel for, when you switch channels, the commercials that air on there, they're maybe recording some of those. So all that's being logged as well. Now you drive to work. You listen to a podcast. And that podcast is sending analytics back to the podcast provider saying, hey, here's exactly how long you listened to this podcast for. Here's the moment that you tuned out of the podcast. Here's the moment that you tuned back into the podcast. There you go. Now, if the podcast app has data on your phone, they may know how fast you were driving or that kind of stuff, depending on how much data they have available to them. Because all this stuff is cross-referenced, don't forget. I'm not trying to scare you here. I'm just literally painting a picture of the world we live in and how we're being watched. Let's say you use your Maps app on your phone. Well, that's a free app, right? You're getting free service, free GPS. Well, that Maps app is using your data to make that map app better. So you know this if you're using Waze, but it also happens with Google Maps and also with Apple Maps. How do you think they get that traffic data? It's coming from other cars on the road. Okay, so you stop through the drive-thru on your way to work and you scan that little loyalty card. So bing, that goes right into a database right away. So now they know when you come through the drive-thru, what you normally order, and all that stuff is logged and cross-referenced a million different ways. Now you get to work. You go into your parking garage at work, and what do you think they do? First thing, they see when you go into that parking garage because they've got a record of your card that scans you into the parking garage. They might even take a picture of your license plate, so they have a record of every car that enters and exits the parking garage, so they have you there. Now you walk into your building at work, and what do? You scan that little RFID card, the one that goes beep and lets you into the door, right? Well, that's all being logged. So there's a master log of every time you've ever entered and exited your building. And again, keep in mind, nobody might be looking at these things on a daily basis, but they're there. And they're there to be cross-referenced. They're there for trends. They can see when people come into the building, when people leave the building. You have that. Now you log into your computer at work. And again, that's all time-stamped. They know when you logged in, what you're doing. If it's a work computer, they've got everything on there that you're doing, whether it's your personal Gmail, whether it's whatever messages you're sending through their network, they do have the ability to see those most of the time. I mean, unless you're using a super-duper encrypted program, most of the time they can see those. So you have that. Now you think, okay, well, I don't use that. I just use my cell phone when I communicate at work. Well, if you're on their Wi-Fi network, you probably accepted what's called a trust certificate. And what does that mean? Well, that means that your work can pretty much see all the stuff that's being transferred through their Wi-Fi network, even if it's on your personal phone. So you have that as well. So that's logged. What else do you have? Oh, and again, your company may not actively be looking through all the stuff that you're doing, but again, they don't need to. We have super powerful servers these days that can sit there and sift through tons of data all at once. So what these servers do is they just get big loads of data and they sit there and they just sift through it. They might be looking for keywords, they might be looking for trends, they might just spit out a report. Here's your top 10 employees that spend the most amount of time on Facebook every day at work. Boom, simple. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, you go to lunch. Okay, it's lunchtime. You drive your car to the lunch place. You park your car on the street. Well, while your car is parked on the street, the meter person that's driving around looking to give people tickets is actually scanning every car license plate as they drive by. So they've got little cameras, next time notice these on those cars, that are aimed at all the cars that they drive by. So because they're circling these streets so much, they can see exactly where every car is parked. They're comparing all those license plates against a database. So a database of stolen cars or other databases. They can use it for public planning purposes to see where people park the most or what spots are taken up the most. I mean, there's all these crazy things that they can do with that data. But again, they're scanning all those license plates because they're driving around anyway. Why not? And here's the other thing. I'm not saying that this stuff is necessarily evil. I'm just saying this is what we have out there. And when companies here, or city, let's say you're a city, when a company sells you this data and says, look, we can help you find, 5 stolen cars. Or we can help you find 10 people that haven't paid their tickets in a year. And next thing you know, you can put a boot on their car and collect $1,000 from them. Now this software just paid for itself. This is how this all happens. All right, so you park your car. Now you grab some money out of the ATM. So you go to the ATM, and of course there's a little camera, right? You've got a little camera on the ATM. It's taking a picture of you, and it's seeing who you are. Maybe it's comparing your face against a database. I don't know. I'm not saying this is happening. This is just stuff that could potentially happen. But they do have your face on that ATM. Maybe they use it for marketing purposes. Maybe they say, hey, we want a list of all the people that use competitors' ATMs so that we can market to them, or people that are not our customers. Now let's market to them, so maybe they'll open up an account with us because they come to our ATM a lot. You have that. Let's see. You go to your lunch place, you use your loyalty card. You know what happens there, of course. Now you go to the gym after work. And what happens at the gym? Well, they log when you get into the gym. They log when you leave the gym, your check-in, your check-out. They might even have a system at the gym that pings cell phones. So they can even see where people spend the most time in the gym. Maybe it's in the workout room. Maybe it's in the yoga room. There you have it. These little systems can kind of ping all the phones that are in the area, even if the phones aren't on their network. It doesn't matter. They can still say, hey, we identify a bunch of phones. Now you go to the grocery store, and this is where it really gets fun. So why do you think grocery stores give us those loyalty cards? Well, because we get something in exchange. We get a better price on our groceries. But what do they get? They get a record of everything we've ever purchased at the grocery store. And why is that important? Well, they can use it to market more stuff to us. Think about the coupons you get in the mail from the grocery store. They're all personalized for you, right? They all have products that you've purchased. They don't send those to everyone. Those are specific just for you. So next time you get those little coupons in the mail from the grocery store, check out those coupons and you'll notice that they were printed specifically for you. And you'll also notice it's for the products that you buy the most, or maybe it's for the opposite brand of the product you buy the most. Now, also what they're doing with the loyalty information at grocery stores is they're cross-referencing it. So they know that you purchased that, but now they want to see, well, wait a second, why did you purchase that? So they go out and they buy multiple databases from other data brokers and go like this with the information and put it all together. So now they can see, okay, we saw that he watched this on his TV last night and now he bought that product. Boom. It all worked. The marketing worked. Pretty interesting, huh? Okay, so now, and remember, all this is still anonymous. So when they do that, when they do these things, these companies are using anonymous data most of the time. So when they're buying another database, they're not giving your data to that company. They're taking in that data and mixing it with the data that they have because they know who you are. The third party is just selling extra data on top of it. And a lot of times it is anonymous, but it links up so well that they can figure out who you are pretty simply. All right, so you got that. Now you go into a big box store after your grocery store because you need to get something that's a little cheaper there. Well, in these big box stores, maybe they have a camera that identifies how many people are in the store at any given time. So these cameras can build a heat map of the people in the store, see where they go, what aisles they spend the most time in. It also has facial recognition, so it can kind of identify trends, who comes in the most often, who doesn't come in. And it literally, I've seen these things in action. They can track as people enter and exit the store, and they're pretty good. Also, they might have those antennas that sniff out your phone and maybe even cross-reference your phone somehow with a database that identifies who you are. You get home, you make dinner. All right, whatever, big deal. You surf a little Facebook, you go on Twitter, you go on Instagram. Now on the web, pretty much everything is cross-referenced. So all these websites have little trackers that kind of connect to Twitter, that connect to Facebook, that connect to Instagram, and that way those companies can see what you're doing on the web. So why do you think when you look at the ads on your Instagram feed, they match up to the things that you're surfing on the web? So if you looked up a piece of luggage like I did the other day, next thing you know, my Instagram ad is for that exact piece of luggage. Now, I didn't search for that piece of luggage through Instagram. I did it on the internet, which was not connected. But it is connected because Instagram gets that data from the website because they work together to market stuff. Because everything that you purchase kind of links back to them. And someone gets a cut of that finder's fee, basically. Don't forget about your internet service provider at your house. So they're also logging all the stuff that you're doing. Of course, it's anonymous, but they see everything that you're doing on your computer, whether it's a regular browser or a private browser session. They still know what's happening. All right, almost time for bed. So you're going to read a little book on your Kindle or your e-reader, whatever you want to say. They're logging your statistics. What book you're reading, how fast you're reading it, the selections that you highlight. All the other statistics you can imagine that we've never had for books before, now we have about books. We know if people finish books. We know if people pick up a book, read the first 5 pages, and don't read anything else. We know how fast people consume books nowadays, all because of this stuff being tracked. And again, a lot of it's anonymous, but a lot of it can be linked back to you. If you order anything online, of course, Amazon, all these different companies, they're all logging your browsing history so they can see all the different products that you looked at before you finally purchased a product, and all that goes back into marketing so they can figure out, okay, well, if they look at these type of razors first, then they look at these type of razors that are a little bit cheaper, and then they finally purchase those razors that are in the middle. Now, if I'm a marketing company, I'm thinking, okay, I got to price my razors a little differently to get people to buy them first. Okay, finally you watch some more TV. We all know what happens there. It's all tracked there. And it's time for bed. You have your Fitbit on. You go to sleep so you can see exactly how much rest you've gotten. And guess what? Your Fitbit is logging you as you sleep, or your health tracker. And all that data is anonymized and aggregated so that they know when people are going to bed, how long people sleep, how long people toss and turn, how long people are up in the middle of the night, when people wake up, when people go to sleep. And if you're wearing one of those watches all day, they've got the information as well. So they see average heart rates of folks. They see where people are, how people are moving, the activity they're doing. It really is fascinating. So again, that's just one day, maybe in the future, maybe right now, but that's kind of what's happening in our world. And you're right, I'm seeing the comments come in. This is not to scare you. This is just to let you know that we can't be ignorant about what's happening out there. What we're doing is being tracked in one way or another, whether we participate in that or not. You see cameras everywhere. It's just a matter of time before software catches up to where all of this stuff is better integrated, and then people really do have a much better idea of where we are, where we go, where we've been, what we're doing, what we're buying, what our preferences are, what our likes are, whether it's online or in real life. So that's it. This is just something I've been thinking about for a while, way before all this stuff with Facebook. And Facebook was probably the first service that we knowingly gave up a bunch of information to, like all of our photos and pictures and status updates and where we're checked into. But you just have to think, you just have to have a healthy knowledge of how this stuff is happening. For 99% of us, it really doesn't matter. What it really comes down to for the 99% of us that are being tracked every day is money. What companies want to do is sell us information. They want to sell us products. And the way to sell us products is to really know the most about us so that they can market to us successfully. It used to be you take an ad out in the newspaper, you'd reach 1 million people, and maybe one of them or 10% of them would buy your product, and you did pretty well. These days, it's getting so tough to market to people because we have ad blockers. We're not watching as much TV live. We're not going to the movies as much, so we're not seeing those previews. You're not buying magazines. So all those ways that marketers used to reach us, which were very basic, you take an ad out in a magazine, someone sees that magazine, and you don't care who they are. As long as they buy the product, you're good. But now things have gotten much more high tech, and we have ways of tracking people, and that's really what it comes down to. For most of us, it's just a matter of marketing. Yes, there are some implications when it comes to civil matters, when it comes to our privacy and what we want people to know, and also, of course, when it comes to things like laws and breaking the law and crime, there's a lot of implications there as well. So I'm just hitting the topic today of really just what's happening. And I just wanted to share that with you guys, not to scare you, but just to kind of open the conversation a little bit. So I think that if you're not thinking that these things are happening and what the implication is, you just sort of have to think about it sometimes, and it just makes it healthier for all of us. So I personally, I think that it's just fascinating. It really is. And companies are sprouting up every day to slice and dice data, and computers are getting faster at slicing and dicing that data. And that's why we're seeing things move along faster than ever before when it comes to all this big data, as they call it. This has been going on for years. But the idea that more devices are getting connected, more devices are collecting data on us, and more of these databases are being sort of intermingled, it's just all coming together. It used to be when someone robbed a convenience store, they had to go through the tape and find that moment and figure it out. Well, nowadays, you come home to your Nest camera, it snaps a photo of whoever enters your house or leaves your house. So, you've got them right there, and it even mails it right to your phone instantly. So, we've come a long way. And you look at that photo, and you say, oh, I know that's my babysitter, or oh, I know that's my nanny, or oh, I know that's my wife. And the product actually gets good at identifying the person as well. So imagine that times 1 billion in the world when a lot of these things are linked together. And computers can scan for all those faces and driver's license databases and all that stuff. So